Hey everybody, welcome back to the Be That 1% podcast. Today I got in the house a legend, living legend in my opinion, on someone who is not only a father who just, I think, runs his life with a level of integrity and focus and intensity that I respect, but also in the fight game. If you don't know much about the fight game, this man here is pretty well known. I'm just going to read a little bit of his bio and then we'll hop into this amazing episode here today. Eric Nicksick is a GM and head coach of Xtreme Couture fight gym here, and he is the coach to Francis Ngannou, Aljamain Sterling, right, and then Sean Strickland and many other fighters. And he's also a father of three, and I just happened to coach one of the teams that his daughter is on, and she's incredible. And her mindset is just as strong as her dad's. And so that's a testament to who this man is here today in the studio, and the amount of focus he puts into the things that he cares about. So Eric, without further ado, bro, welcome to the show.
Oh, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
That was cool, man. Thinking about the girls and going out and dominating, doing their thing in nationals. I was so happy for them all, it was cool.
Yeah. So father of three, all daughters?
2 daughters and my son.
Okay.
So Knox and Avery both go with your dad over across the street.
That's right.
Yeah. Knox is the little guy and he's 8. Avery's 15 and McKenna's 17.
Okay. Man, lots of lessons, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that they'll be brought up in the fight game as well?
To a capacity. I don't know if that is something that they'll compete in, but my goal in anything is your surroundings, right? Mm-hmm. I hope that I can surround them with a mentality, not necessarily this is what I want them to do as far as being a fighter, but when you put them around championship mentality or people that are just working hard at whatever goal or whatever career path that is, that's what I want them to see. Mm-hmm. I want them to see hard work and see the things that are obtainable when you do work hard. Mm-hmm. So when, Francis is like, his uncle, Knox's uncle, Knox gets to see firsthand what a champion's mentality is. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what field he ends up getting into, but I just want him to understand what that work ethic looks like,
Yeah, I love that. How did you and Francis meet? How did that whole happen?
So Francis and I met probably 2018, maybe earlier, maybe a little earlier. So he moved to Vegas before he fought Stipe the first time. Mm-hmm. And he was at the PI and kind of bouncing around. I think he was kind of looking for a new gym, but wasn't too sure. Still had his old gym from France, but was looking to try to make the transition. And, he kind of tells a funny story because I'm just like, what's up, brother? And hugs and he's just not like that. He's like, why's this fucking white dude hugging me? And he still like was learning how to speak English. I don't think he was very comfortable with his English at the time. But he would frequent the gym and was just trying to find a place to come and train. And I think just my personality is just kind of open arms and whatever, Mm-hmm. So we hit it off that way. I was never really like trying to be his coach. Mm. I was more just trying to be his friend and an acquaintance. And over time, he would come in and out of the gym more and more regularly. He lost to Stipe. He ended up training at another gym for the Derek Lewis fight, and then finally made the transition over. Mm. And that was through his manager, Markel. Markel said, "Hey man, I think Francis really wants you to be his coach. Would you be interested in helping him?" I said, "Yeah, I think it'd be good that we got to know each other a little bit more, train a little bit more, just catch a vibe, if anything." And that was it, man. I cornered him for the Junior Dos Santos fight. He'd asked me to be in his corner, and from there on out, he was like, "I want you to be my head coach." So it was cool, man. Like it was. Francis is one of those guys you really have to earn his trust. He just doesn't allow a lot of people in, and once you do, and you kind of prove yourself to him in those regards, that you're like your heart's in the right place. You're not trying to, take money away from him or embezzle. He just has those predisposed things with him. I think because he's probably dealt with it a lot in the past.
Sure.
And then after we beat Junior Dos Santos, or he beat him, we're in the back and we're in like the green room for the UFC. We're eating a pizza and hanging out. And he comes back there and he's like, "Hey man, like, I've been testing you." And I was like, For what? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, like, you're a real one. Like, I trust you and I want you to be a part of this from here on out. Like, what do you say? Like, you be my head coach. And I was like, oh, yeah, definitely, bro. I'm in. So that was kind of like the spark. It was like a trial run for the Junior Dos Santos fight. And then we had Rosenstruck during the COVID era pandemic. And then Stipe, Cyril Gane. Then we had the boxing matches and then René Ferreira.
When you're coaching an athlete or a fighter, what is how in your mind, what do you think your role is?
It's a great question. I think a lot of that times when we sit down, let's say, and we're having this type of conversation, a lot of times I'll ask, like Francis in particular, we beat Junior Dos Santos. We get back home in about a week or two, him and I just go to dinner. We're talking about being the coach and everything. And I legit asked that question, James. I'm like, what can I provide you? What services can I provide you to help you become a better fighter? Mm-hmm. What areas do you think I can fit in to help you? One of those things, right? Like, do you just need me to hold pads for you? Do you need me to help you with what? And I think as a coach, you have to be adaptable to what the fighter might need in certain circumstances. But in this circumstance with Francis, I mean, he really needed a kind of an overhaul, so we were able to sit down and talk. But when you identify what your role is and you know what you're doing, then you have clear vision of what the tasks are at hand, right? Yeah. Like in any line of work, right? Like, what's my job? What's my job title? What's my role? What do you need me to do? And now you have a vision, right? And kind of how to fill in those voids. And that really helped me a ton because we sat down and we just essentially mapped out not only a game plan on how to get better, bro. We literally mapped out that day I knew we had a fight or two before we got to Stipe because Stipe and DC were booked again for like the third fight. But everything that we did had our sights on Stipe, no matter what fight it was going to be. Okay, we're going to fight Jairzinho and maybe one other fight in between and then Stipe or whatever it may be. But everything that we train for right now is with Stipe in mind and then John Jones,
Love that. When you are selecting a fighter to potentially work with, what characteristics are you watching for, looking for, sensing from them?
The things that you don't have to babysit, right? Like, I don't want to have to babysit your extra work, right? That should be ingrained. That should be innate in like this person. They should be wanting to do all the little extra things over and over and over again. I think another thing that like gets overlooked at times is that we do live in a city that can expose a lot of dark demons out of people. Yeah. And if they cannot handle themselves in Las Vegas, and if you have these demons or flaws, this town will pull it out of you. Right. And I appreciate Las Vegas for that. True. I think it's like its own entity, if you will. So you'll get guys that will move to Vegas and move to town and they want to be a world champion. But bro, if they have a gambling problem, a girl problem, a drug problem, whatever problem, this town will freaking pull it out of you real quick and you'll know what you have on your hands. So I think for me, I'm a don't tell me, show me guy. I like to observe the way that you work. I like to see how you show up. Do you show up on time? Do you show up prepared? Do you show up prepared in a way that also protects your teammates? Are you wearing the proper gear that takes care of your partners? It shows a lot about your character and how you care about the individuals that you surround yourself with as well. So a lot of just, hey, I'm watching you more than I am like talking to you or saying much to you.
Would you say that in your coaching of like the feedback, is it more so here's what I'm observing and you kind of let them morph that feedback into what they feel would be helpful? Or is it like, you need to do this? Maybe a mixture of blends.
Can be. Yeah. I think so. I have a good mix of veterans, like guys that I came up with, like the Brad Tavareses of the world and the Ray Cephos, and Ray's a little bit older, but guys that like we learned together from. So we set that standard for the middle crop guys and the younger guys, right? Then you have like the Dan Iges and the guys that have been around a little while that are now starting to be part of that leadership role. And what we encourage them to do is raise the standard, do it better than what we did. And then the young guys are able to follow that lead and follow that example. And then there's more, I think, verbal teachings to the young guys so they understand the reasons why we do certain things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for example, let's just say like guys that aren't wearing the proper knee pads, right? Well, why wear these knee pads? And there's more to that story. It's just, okay, of course, yes, knee pads are for protecting the throwing knees, but guys get cut, guys get injured, guys can break their foot, and all those things, how it's important just to be able to keep your team just as safe as you.
Mm-hmm.
It sends a message though. It sends a message that I care about you just as much as I care about myself,
mm-hmm.
right? Mm-hmm. Not only that, I put my team ahead of me. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I love that. What are like some mental frameworks or strategies that you personally use when it's in coaching space, at home, or just overall when you're trying to challenge yourself? What are some mantras that come through for you?
I don't know if there's a specific mantra for me, but I'm a big accountability guy. Yeah. Like I'm big on accountability, and I feel like I just never really settle on anything. Like I just don't feel like you've made it, right? Like that term, like, oh, you've made it, or you're in this position. I always feel this eagerness to continue to find ways to evolve or to keep climbing. So there's an urgency to me, like, oh, I didn't feel like I did enough today. And I love that feeling of like you're chasing perfection, but you and I both know we're never going to get there,
right?
Because all we're going to kind of do is just find things to pick on and then continuously evolve to be better. So on my day-to-day basis there's like, you know, I sit there and try to think about, okay, where are some holes in my game that I can fill? What are some areas in my life that I might be lacking in? You know, what are some things that I've been hyper focusing on too much of, that now I'm slipping on this side of my life? Yeah. It might be faith, it might be family, it might be friendships, it might be this, it might be that. Because you get so tunnel vision on the task at hand. And a lot of that is always going to be by the fight game, you know? Yeah. And that's also what's nice about having a great resource like my wife, who I've been with since high school, is she knows me better than anybody, right? So if I feel like I'm getting off the tracks, she's the first one to say, hey, you haven't called your mom, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, you know? So, but I think for me, just like really circling back to accountability and finding ways that I could always be better and always try to find ways to evolve, be a better human, be a better coach, father, whatever it can be.
Would you say that underneath that relentless drive that you're talking about is like love? Or is it curiosity? Is it fear? What would you say is the main driver for that?
I think for me, it's ever changing. I think a lot of that is I don't want to let the people down around me. Yeah. In a role of leadership or a position that you have, like I have to lead by example in a lot of ways, but I also don't want to let people down. The other side of that, I think, is some of my shortcomings in my youth, things that I should have done better or done with the same sort of mentality that I have today that I didn't have when I was a younger kid. And I feel like a lot of things that I do is because I owe it to that younger version of myself. Not only that version of myself, but my folks and the people that really believed in me as a young kid, playing football, you know, going to college and doing dumb stuff that got me kicked out of school. And I think a lot of things that I do now are to pay back the kid that I didn't do it the right way the first time around. So I don't want to disappoint that younger version of myself because I owe it to him, but I also owe it to my family and everything. So I think there's a part of me that will always kind of have that, like, I can't mess this up again sort of thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. One of the stories I heard from you is not from you directly, but when I was listening to some of your podcasts, was you meeting Joe Mazzulla and how he reached out to you wanting to know how you corner. Yeah. Because he wanted to use some of those strategies with his team in the finals. First of all, how was it just knowing that Joe wanted to talk to you? Like, how was that moment?
Man, I ironically, I just talked to him on the way here. Yeah. I just talked to him on the way here.
Nice.
Yeah. I talked to Joe a couple times a week. How it started was the UFC, the head of the UFC, Dr. Duncan, reached out to me and said, hey, Joe Mazzulla has been contacting us and wanted to know if he can meet with you. And I was like, I knew the name, but I'm trying to make like, Joe Mazzulla wants it. Like, I'm like, yeah, of course. But I'm like, why? You know, like one of those things. And he said, dude, he's just a huge fan and would love to meet with you. He's in town for Summer League. Are you available? I was like, I will make time. Like, no problem, whatever you need. So I get a hold of Joe. He comes to the gym. He brings Sam Cassell. And we spent about 5 hours together. Damn. Me, Joe Mazzulla, Sam Cassell, Brad Tavares, and Dan Ige. So I had him come in for sparring. He watched about an hour and a half of sparring, and then we hung out in my office for like another 2 hours, right? He came back the next day, did it again, and we were just kind of just talking, just being boys, you know? Like, it was, I had questions for him too,
sure,
you know? And his curiosity was, I think, in a lot of ways of how you manage that minute. And what do you try to get across when you add motivation, when you do this, and and there's no right or wrong answer, man. Sure. It's just reps.
Yeah.
Right. I think some of the things that he was battling with was some of the stars, I think, on the team would try to take over the huddle rather than allow him to be the coach. And that might be because of he was kind of handpicked for the role. Could have been like they didn't trust him yet, they didn't believe in him yet. A number of things could have happened. Sure. And I talked to him about a good exercise with Tatum. I said, you value his opinion, right? And he's like, oh, 100%. Like a lot of things he's saying are in line with what I believe in. Sure. And I said, well, I think that's a conversation that you and him should have on a one-on-one, when you describe to him the importance of you being able to conduct the huddle, but you also really want his input there as well. So make it a compromise. So the way I do it within the corner, I worry about their breathing for the first 15 seconds, water, information, pass it over to the next guy. So say, hey, I value your opinion so much. Instead of me taking this entire minute, I'm only going to take 40 seconds, and I want to leave the last 20 seconds for you for whatever input you have. Are you good with that? And Jason Tatum was like, yeah, dude, that's amazing. Awesome. So now there's a little bit of a blueprint. You kind of know your role in the situation. You're telling him that his input is important. It's valuable because it's a collaboration. Now you feel you're getting what you need to be said. You're also a leader of the team, Jaylen Brown or him or whoever else. So everything that you're doing is right. But what's happening is you guys are just fighting for time, right? There needs to be a pecking order. You are the head coach. You just delegate it the way that you want it done. So we talked about stuff like that and just kind of how to own the huddle and when do you use motivation? When do you have to use X's and O's, and that's all depicted on I'm not a basketball coach. I have no idea. What I loved and appreciated about it was, here's a guy in a whole different line of work, right? Who's just seeking out other coaches and finding out ways to be great in their own right. It opened my eyes so much to, wow, like for me, oh dude, like I can find motivation from Flex Lewis or other guys in different genres that are world champions in bodybuilding or world champions in whatever that field they do. Yeah. And the more and more you start crossing paths with these people, James, you start to realize it's like, oh, we're all cut from the same cloth, right? Like we all have the same mindset, same principles, same thing. It's just a different field. I wouldn't doubt one bit if Joe Mazzulla was able to come over and coach MMA as well as I did in a weekend, right? I can go coach basketball if I had to, right? Like that's just my mentality. It's like a good coach is a good coach is a good coach across the board.
Yeah. One of the things that makes me think of is something that I've like committed my life to is like mastery, and when you study people who are masterful, you can find that their cross-disciplinary curiosity allows them to pull different strategies from different realms to enhance what they're focused on, right? Yep. So Joe's cross-pollination of fighting and how you manage a very intense minute in a corner is equivalent. He can deduce the right strategies and techniques through exposing himself to that, bringing it back to a different sport.
100%.
And that to me is someone who wants to own and master their craft. Otherwise, why would you do it?
What is it? I think even further, like what does it tell your team, right? Like if I saw my coach exhausting any option available to just be better, right? Like This dude showed up for a week straight during summer league on his off time to be at an MMA gym. And it wasn't to train or learn how to get a better arm bar. He wanted to find one little detail that might change the course of a fucking game, right? Or the playoffs. He was so upset that they lost to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's all you can talk about. And I felt it. Like I felt it in that conversations with him and this dude was exhausting any option he can find to not allow that to happen again. And as a coach, I'm like, dude, I admire that.
Yeah.
I admire that. This dude will go to any lengths to make sure he's not in that same position again next year. And they won the title.
So cool.
You know? Yeah.
Did he share with you what he got from shadowing you?
Dude, this guy, he's probably like one of the best human beings I've ever met. Hands down. Yeah. Like he's literally one of the best human beings I've ever met. And I think gives far too much credit to others than himself. Right. But like he's like legit, like him, myself, Danny Ige and Brad, like we're all on a group chat together. And we just talk about like just how much like impact he's had on us and vice versa. But when he won the title, bro, like confetti is falling and this dude's FaceTiming me. Right. And he's like, dude, I just wanted you to see it. Like, this is part of your win too. And I'm like, I'm crying. Like he's with his wife. And I'm like, dude, it hits different when like people share that moment with you and just how appreciative like you thought of me in that moment. Right. Like it was so cool. We fought in Boston. Brad fought Chris Weidman in Boston. Obviously Joe's there for the fight. We win. And we call security to get Joe in the back to be able to take team pictures with us. You know what I mean? Cool. Like that's how close he is to us right now. You know, like he's such a great dude. I was supposed to go to Arizona and see him on Wednesday, but just have so many fights and stuff coming up. So, but literally just on the way in here, we were on the phone talking. So it's such a nice resource to be able to talk to somebody that understands what we go through as coaches at this level. Compiled with the travel, the family, and the things that like a lot of people will never really understand unless you're in those shoes. Yeah,
I do want to get to that. But as we're kind of in the corner talk for a moment, you mentioned a framework. It's like 15 seconds, breathe, water, information. Did I hear that right?
Sure.
What is a very memorable corner moment that, in your opinion, changed the trajectory of the fight or caused enough impact on the fighter to turn something around or double down on a specific moment?
Man, there's been a bunch. And there's been ones that like, you know, I wish I had back, right? Yeah. Like, so
it's maybe one of both.
Yeah. Like there's, I wish I would have made a little better of adjustment, or I wish, you know, there's been times where, I should have gotten on guys more, been more, you know, rather than coddling and loving. And that goes back to a lot of knowing your fighter, knowing what they need in those moments, you know. But some of my favorites have been definitely like 2-2 going in around 5, Francis versus Cyril Gahn. That moment was insane. And it wasn't anything about a technique or an adjustment. It was about us. And that was, I can feel it. Like, I just remember like we weren't supposed to be in this fight because Francis, you know, blew his knee out, right? Like he shouldn't have even taken the fight. We went through so much crap. These contracts with the UFC, all this stuff. Like the backstory was nuts. But there was something about that moment where it was just the three of us, Francis, myself, and Dewey. And then, you know, you got Usman, and I remember just looking at him and I was like, bro, like, of all the people in the world that's been through some shit, it's you. Like, this is the moment that you, like, I believe in you more than anything in this world. Like, and that it had nothing to do with the technique. It had nothing to do with let's take this guy down. It had nothing to do with it. It had more with just like just remind him, bro. Like, like the things that you've been through in your life, we wouldn't even be able to imagine. And now you have 5 minutes And I'm like, I'm taking the guy that's traveled across the Sahara to get to, to France, to like all the things that you've been through in your entire life. Like this culminates to this last 5 minutes. And like, dude, if there's anybody in the world, my money's on you, brother.
Yeah.
My money is on you. So, and then like, dude, take this punk ass down and let's go get this win. You know what I mean? So that moment was cool. I think just for like the build up for everything that happened in between, Dan Ige and I have had some really, really cool moments in the corner. 1-1 going in round 3 versus Mirsad Bektik. And I remember looking at Dan and we always said, like, when, we round 3, what do you do in round 3? He said, I fuck him up. Right. And I remember like him on the stool, and it was just kind of like our unison of talk. And I was like, hey, this is it, 5 minutes. I go, it's round 3. What are you going to do? And he goes, I'm going to fuck him up, and jumped off the stool and kind of had this bounce to him and this demeanor to him, something that we had practiced over and over just by doing it in sparring, and it translated in the fight. And then what do you do in round 3? You went out there and put an ass whooping on this guy, so that moment was cool. And then we've had some funny ones. Like sometimes I'll actually like break character a little bit with guys, and the moment gets so big. I remember Chris Curtis is in London and we're fighting Jack Hermanson. And it was like this tense moment. And I was like, I remember walking up and, like I'm putting the stool down. I was like, I wonder if Harry Styles is here. And Chris was like, yeah. I kind of like looking around like, is Harry Styles here? And then later on he kind of laughed about it because it was just such like a intense, like gravitas moment. You're like, oh my God. And I was like, hey man, it's just a fight. It's just a fight, So I think for me, it's the most comfortable place in my entire life is that corner. Like, like that minute, just me and the fighter.
Why? Why is that the most comfortable?
I don't know. I feel like under the pressure of what we have to do in the moment, I want to take the shot. Like I want to be the guy to be able to, take the shot with the fighter, right? Like, I don't know, just something about it.
Are you in flow, do you think?
Yeah, I do. I feel like I'm in flow.
Yeah.
I feel the most clear in those moments. I feel sharp, my vision, and of course there's times where I can look back and like, I didn't feel that great in that moment, or I should have said something different. But for the most part, it's the one thing that I relish the most, and that it would be my addiction.
Yeah.
I can't wait till that that walk in that corner and that minute, and it's the most comfortable place I ever feel in the world is in that corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. One of the skills I've heard you mention before is listening.
Sure.
And the importance of that, not only as a coach, but just as a human communicator, and listening with your ears, with your body, with your eyes. Have you thought about like piece by piece what you're listening for in those types of moments? Like when you're listening with your eyes, I imagine you're reading the body language.
Yeah.
I read the breath rate, how quickly his movements are happening, and maybe there's some lethargic energy there, so you got to course correct that. Maybe you're listening for the tone, but like, can you give us like give us a journey in your mind, if you can, what you're noticing?
All of that. I mean, you really nailed it. I think as a coach, there's the course correcting is the perfect term. You can get in the corner and you can see a guy's body language just be dejected. Right away.
Right.
Now, the importance to that is in that course correction is I train it the other way for the second or third in the corner. I want those guys to watch our opponent and see if they can pick up on that same exact thing, because we can feed off of that. So in reverse engineering that, body language and appearance and optics are huge for me. I know you're tired. I know that, whatever, but body language perception and the way that you carry yourself right away tells a huge story, huge story. And I learned that from Randy. Randy was very adamant about what we do in between the things, right?
Yes.
He would say the space between the notes makes the music. So in between the things that are body language coachable, How do you present? What are you telling your opponent? And so those things are very, very important to me immediately. Right. And then let's say like I always make my guys get off the stool with 10 seconds left and I make them bounce. Right. So those things I think are super important when it comes to the body language things. Then when you hear the verbal side of things, you know, where's their confidence level? How's the round going? Do they sound labored? Like, are there things that I need to make adjustments on? There's been times when we've almost got to finish and the round ended and my guy comes back to the corner and he's like, that adrenaline dump will happen. I won't even coach. Hey, just give me a minute of breathing. You almost got the guy out of there. So now you're like, right now it's more about recovery and getting your head back, center, get back. Hey, all we're doing here is breathing. The game plan is working great. You almost got the guy out of there. Here's maybe one or two adjustments. And it's about the tone that I'm giving you right now.
Yeah.
Right. When we think about the way that we corner, if I am cornering at a 10, their heart rate, their perception of what's going on is equally going to be a 10. So if I need to get them calm, my voice will stay calm. My body will get small. I'll get on like eye level with them. You know, now if I need something out of them, and
ramp it up.
I ramp it up. Exactly. So, and that's, I think, another important piece when you're talking about the corner as a whole. One coach should be doing the talking, not three guys screaming over top of each other. It's very concise. There's a lot of purpose behind what we say.
An energy game.
Energy game. Exactly. Yeah. Even before you walk out too, James, like you'll see coaches that are like, let's go and blah, 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 blah. And you're zapping that as you walk. So, and then there's the flip side of that. Sometimes you need to get that out of them. Maybe they're not fighting to the capacity that you're capable of. You know, that happened with Sean in his last fight. I didn't feel like Sean was fighting to the level of what we've expected out of him. Hey, fucking wake up. Like, what's going on? Challenging him or try to pick up on some stuff to get him going and get him motivated. And that's happened before in the past, like versus Paulo Costa. The first time we fought Dricus, I brought up like even 2-2 going in round 5, and I thought we won the 5th. You know, I brought up Sean's past as a kid. You know, I said, hey man, like I know what you fight for, and I know you fight for that little kid inside of you that you couldn't protect. And this dude fucking like got off the stool ready to kill somebody. Yeah. Right. And that goes back to knowing your fighter, knowing what they need to hear in that moment. What is the circumstances that you're fighting under, right? And trying to get the best out of them in that moment.
So cool. There's a movie that tells the story of Roberto Duran's life. I don't know if you've seen it, but in the movie, in between rounds, his coach would comb his hair so that he always looked presentable before the round. Yeah. And like the science behind that was like, oh, he looks like he hasn't even been fighting. Right. Is kind of the theory, which kind of goes to your psychological advantage there.
Randy was fighting Mike Van Arsdale. And Randy tells the story to the team one day. This is probably 15 years ago. And it was like 1-1 going into round 3. And Randy was like, dude, I was ready to quit. He goes, and I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm ready to fucking quit. Like, this is not going my way. And he goes, I got on the stool and I looked across. And he goes, I saw like the corner, like putting Mike Van Arsdale like back together, like picking him up. And he goes, he looked so defeated and so fucking beat up and so dejected that I knew instantly that if I can show him that I'm not, although I am, if I can present that I'm not, I'm going to be able to just beat him mentally. So Randy said, I just got all the energy that I could, and I just got up off the stool, and he goes, and I'm fucking tired. And I just start bouncing. And I'm looking across the cage. I'm hearing kind of what my corner is saying, but I'm just looking at Mike Van Arsdale. And he said, and all of a sudden I see Arsdale like kind of look over and just see me. And I just see him just go like,
who is this animal?
And he goes, I saw him break in that moment. The round starts. He goes, I went in immediately, took him down. And he goes, I could just feel the guy just give his neck, and I choked him. He said, had he known how tired I was and how defeated I was, right? He said he would never have done that. If I presented the same way as he did, then it would have been a 50-50. He said, but I wanted to make sure that he felt that I had more than in the tank than he did, and he fucking broke. So that mental warfare for us in coaching those details, I think definitely translate from Randy, but it's something so important, especially in the fight game, that people really, I would say, overlook, but I think that it's something that's very, very important in this game.
Yeah. Powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that. There's like a little side note story that you shared about your interaction with Trump on the corner.
Yeah.
That was a cool moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you briefly just share that? I know that was a cool one.
When Sean fought Paulo Costa, Trump was front row. And, you know, I was losing my mind in that fight because I felt like it was a very, very close fight, closer than it should have been. And, you know, I'm just really coaching hard. And then, you know, the fight was over and we ended up winning a split decision. So my thoughts on it were correct. Like there was a couple wayward judges every once in a while during that card. And I was like, this one judge scored it this way. And he was our judge in this fight. I was like, dude, we need to do more. So I think I was on a 10 when as far as coaching goes, I was on Sean bad. The fight was over and Sean yells at me. He's like, hey, give me your phone. So I give him my phone and he hops the cage and goes and takes a selfie with Trump. So I actually have a t-shirt with Sean and Trump. And then, he hands me the phone and he comes back and I was Mr. Trump, President Trump. And how are you, sir? And he said, son, he said, if I win this election, I want you to come back and be the Secretary of Defense.
Let's go.
We go, no. How do you say? He goes, if I'm ever in a fight, I want you in my corner. That's what he said. And I said, sir, if you win this election, can I be your Secretary of Defense? Nice. That's what I said to him. And he started giggling. He's like, I don't know about that, but we'll see. And I was like, all right, man. So he was cool. Yeah.
That's amazing, bro. That's got to be that's a lifetime story right there you tell your kids. Okay. So I know you travel a lot and multiple time zones. So what are some travel tips that you do personally that help you maintain the energy in different time zones back to back while knowing that your energy is affecting those that you're interacting with and leading?
Oh man, it's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough because you're going like
east.
And I'm in Saudi Arabia, and you're basically on a whole different day. I'm big on ice baths for whatever reason why. Like if I'm jet lagged, I'll hit an ice bath and I don't know what it does, but for whatever reason, it helps reset my body. I try to get a hard workout in or a hard sweat, especially right when I land. The biggest thing too is like when you get there, you immediately want to go to sleep. Yeah. It's like, oh dude, I can't sleep. I got to go train. I got to go do something. And then that will kind of set my clock. The other thing too is eating, dude. It's bad because you're trying to find what you're accustomed to when you're here. Like, what you can get, what you can grab, how easy it is. Then when you're in a foreign country, you don't know anywhere to go. You don't know the type of food you're getting. You don't know any of that stuff. So having like that little bit mapped out prior to, I always, hey, what hotel are we staying at? Okay, now I know. We're at this hotel. They have this. They have these foods. They have blah, 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 blah. Then you go to Saudi Arabia or the Middle East countries and your fighters are cutting weight. They inherently put sodium in all their water. Excuse me. All their water has sodium in it. So like if you're trying to cut weight and you're drinking water and cutting your sodium, then you're loading up with more sodium. So that shit gets tricky too. So so for me, it's like knowing where I'm at, trying to understand the area that you're in, try to find all the food, trying to find where the gym's at, try to find all those things prior to getting there. And it's like you almost have like a itinerary ready to go. Yeah. All right, I'm landing at 10 p.m., right? I've been on 16 hours of travel. Okay, well, I'm going to get one sweat, one ice bath, one workout. I'm going to bed. I'm waking up at this time and just trying to get on a schedule right away. Got it. Right away. And it's tough, bro. Yeah. It is tough.
Do you incorporate fasting at all?
I do. So a lot of times my fasting will either be on the travel day, depending on, so this is customary what I do, and it's actually works out well. So let's say like I fast on like the especially like the trips like going to Saudi. Let's say the night before will be my last meal. I'll get up at I'll have an early flight. I won't eat anything on that flight. I'll get to the hotel and I probably will be in about another day, maybe a 36 to 24 hour fast.
Yeah.
All water. And then I'll bring like my elements, all my electrolytes and stuff like that. And then for whatever reason, that helps me a ton.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have more energy if I'm fasted. And then like I'll do that, especially off the travel, because like I don't want to eat the airplane food.
Terrible.
I don't want to grab any of that stuff. So it's really, really easy for me to be able to just be like, oh, I'm good. I'm just going to fast and get there. And then by the time you get there, sometimes it's already ready for bed. So now you're getting an extra 8 hours of fasting in just by naturally just going to sleep.
Nice.
You know, so I can get anywhere from 24 to like a 36-hour fast in.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I love it, dude. It helps me a ton.
Your healthier immune system too, especially can be condensed in all that air in the plane. That's awesome. So you're going to your family with your wife. How supportive is she with the travels?
I feel like she's great.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's become customary for her. 2018 was a lot, I think, on all of us because we had just had Knox. And then I was literally on the road damn near every weekend. And I think like her being accustomed to that lifestyle was an adjustment period. And then now, I mean, she's great with it. Like, and this career is not possible without having the wife that I have, right? Like, and not only that, like she's super supportive of the career and the fighters and the people that we do have. So, but yeah, like 2018, because I had PFL during that time and I had 2 guys in the PFL tournament that were in different weight classes. So almost every week was travel. And then it was the guys in the UFC that I had. So then there was traveling for them. So I might be in Long Island for, 3 or 4 days, home for a day, pack a bag, back out to Chicago, or leave from here to there to go to here to there. And then, but a lot of that back then felt like the sweat equity of building something that I have today, where now I'm able to kind of pick and choose where I want to go and who I want to work with.
Right.
But
seasons,
100%. And honestly, if had it not been for her and her mentality and allowing me to do this, because you can imagine, bro, like if you're married to somebody that's like, I hate every time you travel, or I don't like that you do this, it weighs on you. It's just not going to last. Yeah. One or the other, the career or the marriage, So she's been the most supportive part that I have, and allowing me to be in this position that I'm at. Anytime like you win Coach of the Year or you're even nominated, that's the only reason why I like to show up to go to those things, is because I want to just bring my wife. Like, hey, the hard work that we had this year, it's been
possible because of
you, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, because I travel to 30 plus cities a year, and that's a lot, just being away and like missing games or just not being there at night for dinner, like, and then just watching videos that she'll send and just me imagining what's happening there. And so it's hard to stay present when you know that you're not there with your family, right? So like I always like talking to people who love what they do and who travel a lot, because obviously that's what I do. So yeah, how do you, I know that there's a story that you shared about a mentor that told you, or had asked how many people you are coaching.
Teddy Atlas.
Yeah.
Teddy Atlas.
And he was like, dude, you have too many clients.
Yep.
What year was that?
So, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. It was probably around 2020. So Teddy came to the gym to train Francis, and we're all hanging out. And the first, this is an idol of mine, like a guy that I've always looked up to in Teddy Atlas. So I meet him and I'm like, kind of like starstruck. And literally the first thing he says to me, he's like, how many guys are you coaching right now? And I was like, I don't know, 25, 30. He's like, way too many. That should be at least half or a third of that. And he just kind of starts talking about the quality of work, the family time. He talks about his son, who's a scout for the Raiders. And he was like, dude, I missed all of these things. And he just, Teddy can talk, right? But we're 20, 30 minutes of just like going to college, just listening to the things he had to say. But everything that he was saying, I felt like I understood where he was getting at, and he was really talking about protecting your time more than it was like, you don't need to coach these people. You need to coach people that only respect your time that you're giving them, because it's the one thing in life we don't get back. And he said, man, there's so many times I missed this, and this to be with a fighter that didn't care that I was missing this, and this.
Yeah.
He said, that's what kills you. That's what kills you, because that turns into guilt. Then it turns into resentment towards that fighter. And it turns into resentment towards the game, right? But when you're around individuals that really, truly care, like Francis and Dan Ige and Kai and those guys that like really care that you are giving them your time minus the time that your family gets, right? They're appreciative of it more. That's when you have something magical, right? And that, I think that's what he was really trying to push across to me. And he's like, hey, you got a cup of water and that's your 24 hours, right? And he goes, and you have all these cups and they're all commanding water. He said, but you're over here just trying to fill each cup up as much as you can, right? And he goes, you're going to have to eliminate some of these cups. And that's what he was kind of alluding to. And man, I really appreciated that conversation because it hit, right? And now I think for me is the importance of the power of no, like saying no to certain individuals and not, I don't need to coach this guy. Like it's not worth it for me in the long run, you know?
I think the arc of yes to no is interesting, of like when you're first in it, you say yes to everything because you're not sure where you want to spend your time or what you even like. And so yes. And then as you develop deeper levels of understanding and mastery, no becomes the predominant like metric of like,
bro, you nailed it. Like I'm a reps guy. Like I want reps. Right. Like when we drill, I'm drilling the same rep 100 times, or I'm doing something over and over and over. Right. So exactly your point. If you're saying, hey, can you corner me? I don't think about like, oh, how much are you going to pay me? Like early on, it was, okay, this is a rep to try to perfect my craft, right? Or be better in this area or genre. So I looked at it like that more than anything over time. And until you got to a point, you're like, okay, I know where I'm at now. I know the level that I'm at now. I don't need to say yes to all of these because these reps now are more about quality than they are about quantity.
Exactly. So true. So true. What's the biggest thing that the fight game or just working with so many fighters has taught you?
Oh man, there's so many. Oh, that's a tough question. There's so many. I think selflessness in this game, in putting your ego aside, I think in our field, especially, you know, we're talking about alphas at the highest peak, right? Like everyone wants to win. Everyone thinks they're the best, everyone this and everyone that, and almost kind of humbling yourself, in certain areas to be able to, I think when you're able to humble yourself, you're able to step outside your comfort zone, right? We're in a field that everyone wants to win the round. Everyone wants to win anything and everything we do. We breed competition. But when you're able to check your ego at the door, what happens is you're able to step outside your comfort zone for growth, right? So teaching these men and women that it's not always so important to win every round. It's more important to find things that you can evolve and get better at. And that comes with your ego. So what I mean by that is I'll use Chris Curtis as an example because he's a guy that we talk to about this all the time. If you're working on something in particular to get better at, you're going to lose a lot of rounds, especially something you're not comfortable with. But we're so fixated on, if I spar this guy and he lands more punches than me, then he won the round. But what if I sparred this guy and I'm working on just my southpaw for this entire round? And yeah, he might get me a few times or might get me more than I got him. But now I'm developing something or a trade or a craft that I'm going to be able to go and use for my next fight, or use this or use that and show that growth. I'm willing to lose these rounds. Right. Does that make sense? Right. So I think for me, like the biggest thing I've learned about this field of fighters is checking your ego at the door, being able to be transparent in the things you want to get better at and work on, have accountability on those things, and be kind of selfless in those regards of, hey, I'm willing to lose a little bit so I can gain some stuff later on down the line, you know, in that growth.
Long-term vision.
Long-term vision. Yeah. Because, the infinite mindset rather than the finite.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's good, bro. How do you define success?
Man, I think it's something that is constantly changing though, right? Like, early on, I always felt like winning titles was like, oh, that defines your success. And then you win a title and you're like, okay, well, what's next? Is it defend it? For me right now, I feel the most successful when I can help some of these young fighters navigate themselves into a better part of their lives or career. That to me is like the most fulfilling as a coach is shepherding, like navigating them through this gauntlet and then helping them realize their full potential. Mm-hmm. You know, I look at some of the fighters that we have that didn't think they can make it to wherever make it is in their mind. But when we can leave them better off when we found them, we can put a little bit more money in their pocket, you know, make them better fathers, make them better mothers. That to me is like the greatest thing that I can say as a coach, right? Like I look at Dan Ige, who moved to Las Vegas with $26 in his pocket, living on Brad Tavares' couch, who now makes upwards of 6 figures a fight, has a couple homes, has a wife and 2 kids. Mm-hmm. I look at that as like success to me. Yeah. It's like we're able to take these guys that had a pot to piss in, and now they're better off when we found them.
That's beautiful. With your kids, what is 2 girls and a boy, the differences between how you show up with your son and how you show up with your daughter?
Yeah. Yeah, I think having McKenna first was big for me, especially the type of man that I was and am. She humanized me in a lot of ways, right? Like life looked different for me having a child, but especially having a daughter. You know, I was going to paramedic school. I was doing, you know, like you're out with the boys, getting a bar fight, you know, whatever, like just the trouble and things that you would get into. But especially like when I say life, like when I was going to paramedic school, we saw a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, you didn't think of it as another human being. You thought of it as just a body, right? Like, oh, I have to work on this, or I have to do this, I have to do that. And then once I had McKenna, I felt like life looked different for me. The fragility of life had a different effect. And I started to question things a little bit more, right? Like you're like, oh, what the things I'm responsible for. And so having her really, I think, humanized me. I think that's the best word. It was like, man, I fell in love with life more than I ever had, you know. And then there's Avery, who's like part 2, yeah, right? But she's crazy as all can be. Yeah. You know, she's the typical middle child. And then you know, Knox kind of brought everything together because he's like the youngest, and he's 6 years off of timeline from McKenna. And you know, he's a combination, I think, of all of them in a lot of ways. Like the little guy, and you know, he gets the favoritism from everybody in the family. But with him, it's like, oh, dude, yeah, you want to jump off that? Yeah, go for it, bro. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, dude, you'll figure it out. Right. You know, with the girls, you're like the whole time, you're like, oh, don't do that, don't grab that, don't do this, don't do that. You know, I laugh because I remember McKenna, I would take her to the hospital for anything that was like she can't go to the bathroom, hospital. Yeah. You know, she's crying, hospital. You know, like just take her to the fucking hospital. You know, now with Knox, you're like, oh, yeah, bro, you're good, fine, dude. Yeah. Like, walk it off, pal. Yeah. So no, I absolutely love being a parent. It's the coolest gift you can ever have, in my opinion. Like it's such a great responsibility, but it's also just a privilege to be a parent. You know, it's so much fun.
That's beautiful, man. I can tell you're a great dad too.
Appreciate that.
What's an area right now that has your 100, well, not 100, but like a major focus for you? Something that's like really driving your curiosity. Could be fight related, could be anything related.
Bro, that's a great question. I've never really been a faith guy. I've never really been a religious guy. And as of late, I think it's drawn my curiosity more. And it wasn't necessarily about like finding God, but it was more about kind of finding peace in certain areas of my life. And so Dan Ige is very much like a religious guy, and kind of talking with him a little bit more. And it was more about like, I think like the surroundings maybe more than anything. And then answering some of those questions of like, and Missoula as well. Very much a faith God guy.
I feel a very strong spiritual force from him.
Yeah, very much. And I think my connection with him, and like we look up to each other in a lot of ways. He, sometimes I was going through a bad spell after Sean lost, and talking with him, and then he kept everything that I talked to him about was directed back to faith. Right? He's like, when's the last time you've, this or this or that? And it wasn't that I run from it, but it just never was a connection that I had. And then Dan was simple. He was like, hey, here's a book. It's a daily morning. You read it in the morning, and it's all about, faith in God and whatever else. So he goes, just read it when you get up in the morning, one page. And I was like, okay. And it sparked my interest in actually like wanting to kind of find that a little bit more in my life. But it gave me a different perspective on a lot of things, I think. A lot of things. I think the things that we deal with are really spun on the way that you perceive them.
100%.
Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Right? And it's like, it might feel like a bad thing in the moment, but maybe it's a lesson that you need to be taught. And I felt like that kind of spurred me into a little bit more of kind of understanding a little bit more of my faith.
So help you zoomed out.
Yeah.
And analyze from different angles.
100%. 100%. And it just, again, it was like a change of perspective in certain areas. Right.
Did it change? Because I can relate to you on that. Did it change any of your, not saying that you have anxiety or at all, but did it ground you more? Did it help you become more calm and centered more of the time? It
made me realize a lot of the fluff shit that we don't need. The things that you're so hyper focused and worried about, one of them being social media, one of them being like what people think of you or your role or what people have to say about you. There was a part there where it was like, I was so worried about being liked by everybody. Like, oh, this dude's well respected within the industry, or this or that. And then, you take some shit, and I've been on both sides of that. I remember when I was on the other side of it, where it was like, you're this really, really high. And I remember thinking right away, like, oh, don't get too high on this, because you can easily fall pretty far the way the fight industry is and the fight game is. And then that kind of flipped when Sean lost this last time. And then I was critical about him, on his performance. A lot of people were mad at me because I was critical about what I felt his performance was. I took a lot of flack for it, which I still, to this, my heart was saying the right things. Maybe the timing of it was wrong and everything else. But what it did was it allowed me to understand that none of this stuff matters. None of these people matter. The people that really cared and that were there for me were my family, my closest fighters, my closest friends, and then the faith that I kind of found in God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't need any of this shit. I'm good. And I'm in control of all of that. I realized dude, that's as much as that, the things we ingest is our diet. So is the things that we're looking at. I'm like, oh, dude, I can cut this out. I don't even need social media. And dude, what a reprieve that was, just shutting it off and turning it off for a week and a half of what's going on in, I don't even know.
Who cares, bro?
But I don't care. But what did it do, man? I was hyper focused on everything that was in front of me. My fighters, since that loss, we're now 6-0. Guys are knocking people out, right? I'm more in tune with my family. I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock at night. The things I feel like things that improved were needed. At the time, it felt like such a bad thing. And I'm like, oh, this is somebody showing me something that there's more than all this other bullshit that I need.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that it's brought a lot of a form of invincibility in of no matter how bad or big something is on the outside, as long as you have that grounded frame of reference internally, you can navigate.
Sure.
It may be hard, but you can always come back to that.
Right.
You know, and that's something that you create. That is a relationship.
Yeah.
And as long as you just put those daily deposits in, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you just move more seamlessly through chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. As we wind down here, anything that you feel would be helpful to say as that we haven't got to?
I mean, you know, for me, I think the biggest changes that I ever made in my life were when I realized, you know, it's no one's coming to help. Like, it's on me. You know, I think as a youth, I was very much a finger pointer and pointing blame on areas of my life that were my shortcomings, on my own shortcomings, and really taking accountability and taking charge in what I wanted in my life. You know, writing out the goals and putting out the map in front of me, and, you know, not putting stipulations on this year I wanted to do this. I didn't put it as like a finite term. I put it as an infinite term. These are the things eventually that I want to accomplish, and it sits in front of me. And you know, yeah, man, I think that was some of the biggest changes I ever had in my life is when I really started to take accountability in my own actions, and you know, being able to be in a career that is constantly changing and constantly evolving, and just being around tough, grimy, like individuals that raise your game and raise your level. You know, check your surroundings. We talked about that with the girls when they came in. You know, be around people that want to see you succeed. I think that's also important. You know, people that are there to cheer you on and not haters, and cheer other people on and cheer for their successes. Another thing too, I think that changed me on the inside was I want to see you win. Right? Success is infinite. It's not finite. We don't run out of it. Everybody can get it. Right? And I think that changed a lot of my perspective in the way I you know, talk to individuals. What are your goals? Oh, dude, hell yeah. All right. How are you doing on those goals? You know, and helping individuals push for those things and those common grounds, because it helps you as well. Yeah. You know,
it's beautiful, man. Thank you for your time, bro.
My pleasure, brother.
Thank you for your impact and your influence.
Thank you.
And if you guys have not checked out Eric, please do so. He's inspiring, he's motivational, but also he leads by example. So go out there, be your own 1%. Much love.